Hey everyone, this is Pila here coming to you from Vancouver Island, BC. Thank you everyone for hopping on this call. This is a very special call actually just for Team Freedom Factory. I am so excited for this. Thanks for everybody who is on the line live here. This is going to be recorded so that you can tag your team members who are perhaps at their job right now. Working for someone else so that they can catch up with this later. They do not want to miss it. I want every single person in Team Freedom Factory to watch this, to listen, and take notes. So whoever is on the line right now, please have a notebook ready, have one of these instruments so that you can take notes. This is gonna be good. You want to listen and you want to learn, and then you wanna go back and actually implement, because that's the huge key. So in this business, in network marketing, we always talk about being positive, like don't put anything negative out on social media, eliminate the negative people from your life. And we always talk about being positive, and some people do it, some people never will get it. For those of you who do, that's fabulous. But why do we even push the positivity so much? So like, what's the scoop? Like, some people have told me that, oh, why can't I just be honest? I'm feeling crappy today. Why can't I just be honest? And there's so many reasons to this. So I'm not really an expert on this topic, but I've got somebody on the line here today that knows all about this. And she's going to do an amazing training for us on the topic of power of positive mindset. We've got Shannon Rowe. For those of you who haven't met her, oh my gosh, I love this lady to the moon and back. She is she's from our corporate. She's from our corporate, and she's our Western Canadian regional sales manager. So she's here supporting us as market partners in our daily business and doing training. But what impresses me so much is her background. She actually she's done so many things and she could tell you more about it, but she's been a corporate trainer for one of the largest oil and gas companies in the world. She's done international trainings for their staff. She's also involved in a personal development coaching company as well. And she's been in the field, just like we are as market partners. So she knows what it takes, the grit and endurance and everything that it takes that we need to be out there as market partners. And she's also worked on the corporate side of direct sales companies. So literally she's done it all. So what better person to take over this call right now and tell us all about the positive mindset and the power of it, and why we need to cut out negativity from our life altogether. So I'll let you take it from here, Shannon. I'm gonna mute everybody else so that this call is gonna be super nice and clear.
Thank you. I always am a little bit speechless when I get an introduction from Pele, because it's just over the top. You know what? I am just like you guys, in all honesty. I do definitely come with some experience, and hopefully because I'm really big on using our gifts to help others and empowering others, I hope I can help you see some things a little bit differently today. Maybe you'll have a bit of a light bulb moment. Maybe you won't. Maybe you are one of those people who are constantly living in a state of positivity, which is awesome, and perhaps we could learn from you. But what I'll do right now is I'm going to actually share my screen, if that's okay. Let's see if I can get this thing up here. And we're going to go through a little bit of a training here with you. If I can get it up. Let's see here. There we go. All right. So hopefully you can see this. I put together some slides simply because it helps keep me on track, make sure I love to talk too. So sometimes I just need that little bit of a reminder of where to go next. And so hopefully we can take the next 20-30 minutes or so, talk to you a little bit about having a positive mindset and why it's important. One of the things that people don't realize, or a lot of people don't realize, is that positivity can be the secret to your success. It also, with a lack of it, can be the secret to your demise. It's so funny, when I was really starting out my work career, I actually worked, one of my very first jobs was, I worked at the bank for a few years, but then I had gotten married very young and started working at a senior citizens home. My mom had helped me get this job. She was the administrator there. And I remember one of the ladies there said to my mom, you know what? I can't deal with Shannon's positivity. One day she'll understand what life's all about. She's so young. She's so, and she'll get it. And my mom came back and kind of chuckled and told me it. And to be honest, I was a little bit taken back. I guess I didn't realize that I was exuding this kind of energy. I was very young, not really understanding what being self-aware meant. Still on that journey, believe you me. It's like I say, it's not a destination, that's for sure. But understanding that positivity can really affect the way that you look at life and the opportunities that you see. So it affects your personal contentment, it affects your relationships for sure. It affects your health, but it also affects your business. And I think it really does come down to understanding that you see opportunities that other people may not see. Maybe they see challenges, you see opportunities. And so we're just going to do a little bit of an exercise. I'm hoping that you all have pens. We're going to do an exercise in a minute and bring you through just understanding a little bit about what we see and what affects us. But before I do, let's talk a little bit about what I hope to cover today. I always like to set up expectations properly, because I think that it really does, it helps align what you're hoping to get out of a few minutes with Shannon today. So really what I wanted to do was talk about how our thoughts impact our health, understand the importance of stress in our life. So there is good stress and there is bad stress. And we have to understand a little bit about what that can mean. Analyze our thoughts using the ladder of inference. And you may or may not have heard that terminology before, but it really is the way that our brains process situations. And I remember the very first time that I saw this and I thought, holy smokes. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, because it's a bit of an epiphany for some people. And then really become aware of your positive, negative thought habits. And hopefully at the end, you'll be able to strategize and you'll be able to figure out ways to improve the way that you're thinking and the way that you're using your negative and positive thought processes. But the first thing I wanted to talk about is, how does it affect our business? You know, some people think, well, having positivity is great in our personal relationships. It's a soft skill. True. It is a soft skill, but it's also a skill that's imperative to being a successful business person, specifically when it comes to being an entrepreneur. It really does affect how we see the world, how we interpret information, whether that's in business or in relationships. And it also helps us in the way that we respond to our businesses. So if you want to reach someone with your ideas, understanding more about their personality and your own is extremely helpful. So we're going to talk about that. Positivity leads to wellness. Well, this seems to be a comment that most people would think that is fairly well known. But your physical being, you know, I used to hear my mom say, you know, you're not necessarily going to be healthy unless you're looking after your spirituality, your physical body. But it's also about your mental health and your thought process. So your emotional health and how you process those things. So what I thought we would do right now is, if you have a pen and a paper, what I'd like you to do is take that pen and paper, and I want you for the next 60 seconds to draw me a tree. Okay? If you've done this exercise before, shh, but I want you to draw me a tree. I'm definitely not concerned what kind of species it'll be. Maybe it'll be a Christmas tree, maybe it'll be a stick tree, but I just want you to get that tree up and running. And when you have that tree drawn, I want you to put it up so that I can see it on the screen and that everyone else can see it. Get it nice and close to the camera so I can see it. All right, so I'm just going to go through here and make this really big. All right, so I see plays. All right, perfect. Who's next? Let's see. Arlene's, let me see Arlene's. There we go. All right. Cool. Yeah. Can I see the bottom of that tree, Arlene? I just didn't see the bottom of it. Awesome. Okay, perfect. Let's see who else is on here. Okay, we've got another tree here. I don't see the name on it, but I can definitely see another tree here, and Nicole's tree. All right, so we've got some people who are just on the phone. That's okay. Hopefully you drew a tree. I'm going to ask a question because it's something that I've seen on all of them. And you can come off mute if you want. I want to know why you only drew half a tree.
Who drew half a tree?
All of you drew half a tree.
What? We're in 2D. What do you mean?
Anyone get where I'm going with that?
We didn't
What's
draw the
missing?
roots.
Oh, trick question.
No, it's not. Tell me why you only drew half a tree.
Because that's what you see.
Exactly. My point exactly. So a large part of the tree that keeps it grounded, that keeps it firm, the part that feeds it and makes it healthy, you can't even see.
Oh, epiphany everywhere. Boom. Good job, Shannon.
You can't even see it. So obviously, hopefully most of you have now gotten that understanding of, we often treat, we talk about all of the things that we can see physically. If someone's gaining a mass amount of weight, if they're limping, if they're holding their head because they've got a headache, these are the things that we will discuss. These are the things that we'll try to help. But when someone has a negative mindset or a thought process that isn't good, we often don't talk about it, mostly because we don't see it. We may hear it sometimes, but the fact is oftentimes we only deal with the things that are physical and the things that we can see. Oh, did I lose you? What just happened? I lost.
You're good. We can hear you.
Okay, I can't see you anymore. So let's just see what happened here. All right, can you see me still?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, I can't see you. So if I need you all, I do like that, being able to see you though, just the same. All right, so positively leads to wellness, and we do understand that our physical well-being is a result of our mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Let's see here. There we go. So we're going to talk a little bit about the power of thought. Did you know that the average person has anywhere between 15,000 and 70,000 thoughts a day? Research shows that fear all on its own triggers more than 1,400 known physical and chemical responses and activates more than 30 different hormones. And that constant stress that flows from a negative attitude also saps one's energy, focus, and motivation. Obviously, it's hardly a formula for success. In fact, whether or not this statistic is perfectly right, there's some good information out there that between 75 and 95% of the illnesses that plague us today are a direct result of our thought life. So what do you think happens when we're constantly living in a negative thought pattern? Come off of mute, I don't mind. What do you think happens? Think about the people you know that are you guys are probably, successful in your businesses and are quite positive. The ladies that I know on this call right now, I know are positive. But think about the people that are not necessarily living in it, or when you're having a really bad day, how you're feeling. How does it trigger the way that your body feels?
Well, with people who are negative, like all the time negative, well, first of all, they seem to attract even more negativity to their life. They're always sick. There's always something that goes wrong. Yeah. Everything is always wrong. I have a few of those people still left in my life who I can't seem to shake off my back. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's like never ending. It's really attracting more bad things into their life, including health challenges. It's
For sure.
Yeah, they tend to, well, it's like the difference between the abundant mindset, scarcity mindset thing. You can just tell from whatever, it could be about the weather. It could be about something as simple as the weather, and they'll negative spin on it somehow, right?
What happens to you when you start feeling, when you're in a negative, space?
Well, because we all have down days, right?
Of course. Absolutely.
You can go into the dark vortex of the black rabbit hole. So, that's very easy.
I think I find that if I ever have those days when I'm not 100%, it's the first thing I notice is lack of energy.
Yeah.
I want more coffee.
Yeah. Are we going to the gym in those days?
I go to the gym 3 days a week, no matter what.
Okay, good.
I hate myself because I know it makes me feel better.
Perfect.
But I think the first reaction, it would be not to go.
For sure.
I often found myself trying to talk myself out of it. It's like, I'll go tomorrow. I'll do the afternoon session, and I know when I get to that point, it just never ends up happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Make a lot of excuses.
Yeah, we do. So excuses happen. What do you think happens to our business when we're living in that sort of bad space, even if it's just for a day or two?
Oh, it just freezes. That's where people get stuck.
Yeah, people do get stuck. And do you think it feeds into, do you think that it grows? So once you've had one day and you're starting to, let's say you happen to talk to someone in your downline or in your crossline or in your business or a prospect, do you think that you're attracting them to your tribe, or do you think that maybe it's having the opposite effect?
Oh, totally opposite.
For sure. Oh yeah, you repel them.
Yeah, absolutely. So if negative thoughts and stress are so bad, why are they so common?
Very negative world we're in.
Yeah.
There's just so much negativity in the world. I mean, even on Facebook, right? So if you're scrolling without purpose, it's easy to get into the wormhole, right?
No, for sure.
News or
people being influenced by anything that's out there. Yeah, just like Arlene said.
I think it's contagious.
Easier.
Yes, it is contagious. Yes, for sure.
It's easier, and people actually, I think I heard that people get a high off sort of more negative feelings scientifically, like that your body's hardwired to actually get a more chemical high when negative things happen, or like say you're in a casino and you lose, you get more of a high off losing than winning. So I think that could have something to do with the actual chemistry in our body of it feels better to just be, losing.
So I put this question up here for a reason. I said, if negative thoughts and stress are so bad, why are they so common? Now, we had originally started talking about negative thoughts and that negative mindset. I threw the word stress in there because I wanted to see if anyone caught onto that. Arlene, you kind of hit it a little bit, that some people are, they're, what did you say? They're motivated by it almost. They get addicted to it or whatever. Is stress the same as negative thoughts? Is stress bad?
Yes. I don't think stress, sometimes you can actually thrive on stress, right? Like I work better under pressure myself, but yeah.
I would say I'm one of those people as well. There's a healthy amount of pressure that makes me perform even better. Anyone else on the call that feels that way? Or does stress just overwhelm you and you just need to walk away?
I find that most times it overwhelms me. I'm like, I just want to get rid of it. I do anything to get rid of it. But same like what Arlene said, that yes, like when it's a month end and you're this close to a goal, your heart is beating out of your chest and you're so stressed out, you don't know how you're going to make it. But you're going to make it. You're just like, you're not going to stop. So, in those situations, I don't think stress is necessarily a bad thing. Because, when that 9 o'clock, Pacific time hits on the last day of the month and you've given it your all, it feels so good after.
But there's that, and the people who seem to, like you say, feel, because you do a lot of personal development, but the people who don't, they tend to just get paralyzed by it.
This is a great segue. All right, so think about yourself in the deep, dark jungles of Africa, and a lion is facing you. Immediately, we're going to feel stress, right? Like that's the physiological thing that happens to our body. Generally, we are then controlled by that stress hormone that happens. And there's two things that happen. We can either action, like you guys said, it's month end, I'm feeling the heat, I need to get this done, I need to make my goals, and you can use that stress in a positive way. But then some more, it paralyzes them, and all of a sudden they're lunch for their lion. It's interesting how we can take negative thoughts, how we can take stress, and we can work it for us, and we can work it against us. I'm going to talk a little bit about the two systems. We have two biological systems, and they're controlled by stress hormones. And feeling stress shifts the balance to the system on the right, the sympathetic nervous system. Now, I'm not going to get super scientific, don't worry. But I do want to show you a little bit. I'm going to go through this because I don't want to spend all your day doing this, but I just wanted to show you these two different systems. There's this positive thinking system that allows rest and digest, have an open mind. It creates a creative space for us. It helps us problem solve. It sends blood to our brain and organs. The negative thinking person, it really does, it activates fight or flight, run straight ahead, you avoid problems, it sends blood to your leg and muscles in order for you to run. And so the reason why I wanted to talk a little bit about a positive mindset is to understand that having a positive mindset is actually physiological. And there's things that go on in our brains that cause us to react certain ways. We're going to talk a little bit more about what we do with how we process information and how that can then further get in the way of our success. But I just wanted to show this to you really quickly. Hold on. There we go. Our instincts. What is stress? How is stress helpful? And when is stress harmful? So let's talk a little bit about when stress is helpful. We gave a couple of examples. You want to give me, yeah?
Flight or
When's
fight?
stress helpful? Yeah?
Yeah.
When is stress helpful in our businesses?
Certain tasks, like sometimes if there's no pressure, you just don't do it.
Yeah, like say for example, when Pele puts out a challenge and you know that you want that purse.
Yeah. Is she giving away a purse? How much fun is that?
She often does. On team challenge.
I just think it's a healthy competition is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but there is, I think, a little bit of stress. It's like, oh, you see that somebody has a couple more points than you do, and you're like, no, this is not happening. I'm gonna go get more points. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. No, for sure. So we're
she does challenges to get us to do, say, for example, Dare to Succeed online. And then some people will look and go, oh, I don't know if I can do it, but it gets them out of their comfort zone. So it's kind of a good stress.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is where I'm trying to draw the connection. We all deal with stress every single day. We have stress in our lives. We have stress in our businesses. We have stress in our relationships. We have stress going out the door and driving from point A to point B, depending on whether there's snow or traffic. The thing is our thoughts actually determine how we feel, and then how we feel determines how we act and what we do with that information. So I wanted you to just kind of think about stress a little bit to understand that oftentimes our negative mindset or our positive mindset shows up most when stress is in our path. You know, if we're just sitting there watching TV with our family and eating our favorite foods, and we've got a day of leisure at home, chances are, unless you're super negative, which is generally not the case, people won't notice it, and you won't notice how it affects you. What I wanted to show you is that your negative mindset actually doesn't necessarily show up in your everyday life until stress hits you. And when stress hits you, that's when you start to feel something. When you feel something, that's the way that you're going to react. And if you react in a way that's a negative way, see, not all people who have a negative mindset understand that they have one. They actually think they're positive. How many people have you met that actually thinks they're positive, but they actually are super negative?
Oh, there's loads. They're everywhere.
There are loads. Exactly. And so I just wanted us for a moment, you know, in this 30 minutes that I have with you, to actually start being super real with yourself and see, what is it that I do when I'm hit with stress? See, some of us will make excuses and we'll say, well, you know, I'm always positive. I see the blue sky, I see the sunshine. It's only when I'm stressed that I get negative. But that's a fact, is a negative mindset actually usually just shows up when there's stress. Does that make sense? See? So, but I'm already a positive thinker. I think positively. I'm going to tell you a little story. I have 4 children. Some of you who know me well know that already. And my oldest, my son, is an amazing human being. He's super creative. He creates music from scratch. He's a fine artist, so he does some incredible work. He's a graphic design artist. He does work for a lot of musicians to do like album covers, that sort of thing. 23 years old. Just extremely talented, and probably one of the most negative thinkers I've ever met in my entire life. I've spent 23 years of his lifetime trying to make him understand that life is just much more difficult when you put a negative spin on it. And he'll say, yeah, but I'm just realistic, I'm just realistic. But the fact is it limits him. It limits him all the time. And then I have other kids who are like so positive that, sometimes I'm like, oh, I need to bring you back down a notch. It's not that you're a bad or good person if you tend to go one way or the other. It really does just come down to becoming aware of what you do with that stress and how you see it. I want you to open your mind as we go through the next little part of this training, because I think, just like me, most people go through a real epiphany when they see this, and they realize that even though I'm super positive, maybe there's times when I go up this ladder a little bit wrong, and it can really affect the way that I see things, the way that I react, the way that I process, and then what I do with it. This comes from another training that I used to do. I just pulled out some of the great information on it. Has anyone, and I can't see you anymore, and I have no idea how to get you back on the screen. I wonder if I go to video settings. I really want to see you. How do I do this before we go into this piece?
Usually it's on the Zoom screen. When you go on the Zoom screen, you can see the top right corner.
Maybe if I just go out, it won't allow me to escape either.
What if you go stop screen share?
Yeah, it's probably your screen share.
Yeah, maybe. So I'm going to end the show. And I'm going to bring you down here. Let's see. I just want to see you again. Back to meeting. Stop share. There you go. Okay, now let's start sharing again. It's nice to see your lovely faces again. Share screen, desktop. I should be able to see you now. I think I did something with the settings because I can't see you. Here, maybe it's here.
Usually, because when you're actually in the Zoom.
What happened?
Oh.
Yeah, something happened. No, something happened, and I must have done something. Okay, it's okay. I just really wanted to see you guys. Nope, not gonna happen.
Oh, never mind.
Nope. No. I did something So, oh well, that's okay. All right, so let's just go back to this again. All right, so ladder of inference. So this ladder is really, really interesting to me, and it's really funny because the trainer who did this with me for the very first time did it with me and a colleague of mine who I knew very well, but he also knew us very, very well. And he talked about how we both go up our ladder of inferences, very, very different. And I would say, and she would say, that she's a negative thinker and I'm a positive thinker. But what I realized through this process was I actually often go up the ladder of inference wrong. So here's the deal. The ladder of perception describes the thinking process that we go through, usually without realizing it. So to get from a fact or an event to a decision or an action. So the event happens, then I select data from that event, okay? And then I add meanings, and then I make assumptions, and then I draw conclusions, and then I adopt beliefs, and then I take actions. I walk down the street, I think I'm good looking. Someone looks at me and thinks, hey, they're looking at me because I'm hot.
It's the hair.
But yeah, exactly. But what if I think that I'm not good looking? And I see the same person look at me in the exact same way. What am I going to think? They're looking at me because of what? Because I'm so ugly. I'm so overweight. My hair is awful. They think I look stupid. You see, oftentimes, it's our belief system and the way that we're thinking in our mindset that allows us to go up this ladder of inference completely different. And maybe that person is looking at me and not looking at me at all. They're looking at the tree behind me. But because I have a negative mindset, I think, they're looking at me because I didn't do my hair right today. You know? It's very, very interesting when we start to think about how we take data and what we do with that data and see how we come up with certain beliefs. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to think about a time. This is like really going slow. Sorry. I think I got to use my clicker. Recall a time you went up the ladder of inference and took a false step. Think about a time when someone said something to you. Maybe it was a text. Maybe you got a text and you completely read tone that doesn't exist in text. And you read it incorrectly. And you went up this ladder of inference. And all of a sudden, you selected data from that text. You added meanings that weren't there. You made assumptions about that person or what they were thinking. You drew conclusions, and then you adopted a belief. Can you all think of a time when you might have done that? Text is like a perfect example.
Yeah.
How many times someone we love, and because we're like, I already have a negative mindset about this person anyway, this is what they mean. So I take it, I do all this stuff with it, I make assumptions about them and me and what they were trying to say, I draw conclusions, and I adopt beliefs. Because I can't see your faces, can you guys like voice, has there ever been a time when you've done this?
There's loads.
I'm sure.
All right, I hear Arlene. Anyone else? Arlene, you're the only person who goes up this ladder.
Oh no, I said that too.
I'm on the ladder hanging out.
I'm on the ladder hanging out.
There must be a time, but I can't think of one.
Okay, all right. So,
I think you hit a really good
generally,
point, though, right? When you're talking about text messaging, you hit a really good point because it's very hard to read the intonations of whatever the person's trying to say. So oftentimes people misread the texts.
yeah.
And so it's a really good clue to maybe not leave text.
It really is. In fact, we had this conversation within our internal team. I'm someone who generally, when I'm working, I'm very, very, very focused. And if I text someone, I literally forget to say, hey, good morning, how are you? I literally say, you know that report that we were working on, can you get that to me? And then what do you think happens on the other line? on the other end. They're like, why is she mad at me? Did I do something wrong? You know, so it's not necessarily that we have a negative, that we're negative thinkers. It's that everyone has the ability to go up this ladder of inference incorrectly based on a number of different things. It might be the fact that we have a headache. It might be the fact that we're feeling bad about ourselves. Or it might be the fact that we had a bad experience with that person before, so we automatically go up the ladder again the same way. You know, and oftentimes this is about having a positive mindset and actually thinking good intent from people as opposed to ill intent. Or sometimes it's taking yesterday and burying it so that we don't make assumptions. My son constantly tells me, he's like, Mom, you think this, and it drives me nuts. I'm like, please stop telling me what I think. In this case, I might think this, but in this case, I don't think that at all. So we've got to be very, very conscientious that having a negative mindset is in everybody's possible wheelhouse. It's not, you know, most people come into this and think, well, you know, I already have a positive mindset. Well, you know what? We all have the ability to go up this ladder incorrectly. And we can filter information a number of different ways, depending on a number of different things. So, again, this is all, I usually don't do this here. There we go. Let's get to the next one. So, the reason why I had you kind of think about that is because I really did want you to think about times in which you can do, you can make these actions. We can jump to conclusions. We can discount the positive. Sometimes we can have this all or nothing. You know, it's like, oh, if they didn't mean this, then they meant this. And the fact of the matter is, you know, there could be a dozen different scenarios within that all or nothing. We overgeneralize, we blame, we justify. We have this like, oh, well, I should have done this. So we've got this kind of like self-sabotaging, I should have done this, or they should have done this. So a blaming attitude. We label them as specific things or specific people, or they are this. These are all the things that can happen when we have when we don't necessarily go up this this ladder of inference correctly. In fact, negativity can actually have a very subtle existence in our lives. So even though all of us sitting here, including myself, probably think that we're positive thinkers, the beautiful thing about actually taking a look at this is realizing that negativity does enter each and every one of our lives, and probably for most of us it's less than not. But if we think about our businesses, if we think about the relationships, if we think about our cross line, if we think about the close relationships that affect the way that we feel about our businesses or how well we are able to do our businesses, we can often see places in which we can really change this or slow down going up that, or gather more information, gather more data, say, what did you mean by this? I just read it this way. For sure you didn't mean it this way. You know, I've started doing that. Jesse and I are very much, we communicate very similarly. And so when we're in this like work mode, we literally go, can you do this? Or it's like, there's no like nicety around it. And we literally in our last meeting, we're like, you know what we need to do? We need to start going, hey, how's it going? Can you do this for me? You know, because what it does is it doesn't automatically start that, like, create that kind of negative, stressful environment where it's like, well, she always is, you know, she never checks how I am for the day. She never wants to know how I'm doing. She just wants more, you know? And so oftentimes if we can really start to understand what happens when we go up that ladder of inference wrong, we can see a number of different ways in which our lives and our relationships and our businesses can get a little bit better. I'm just going to stop for a minute. Is any of this making sense? Is it impacting you in any way, shape, or form?
Gosh.
Yes.
Are we having some epiphanies?
I am.
Yes.
That's
I think
awesome.
with the especially in this realm of network marketing, whenever we're presenting to people, we jump to conclusions on their reaction to whatever we're presenting or how we're presenting it. So this is really powerful.
That's
Really
great.
It's awesome.
Awesome. That's good. Any comments?
How do we don't do that?
Well, let's talk about that for another couple of minutes, okay? Before we do, let's just ask you some questions. How many times today have you made a could have, would have, should have statement? You don't need to answer these out loud, but they're good questions to ask you, especially if you've realized that you've gone up the ladder of inference incorrectly. I mentally said, if only I could, if only I had, if only this was. How many times have we taken an old tape recorder and replayed a bad situation over and over and over and over again in our heads till we're so mad or so upset or so hurt, and we've magnified the situation? The worst is that situation may not have actually existed. It may have been that we've gone up the ladder of inference wrong. And what have we done? We've assumed, we've blamed, we've drawn conclusions, and we've now created a belief about a person that perhaps didn't have to get there. How many times are you worried about an uncertain future? Are you honest with yourself, or do you just spend time and effort justifying? How many people have you heard, or you've tried to help? Maybe they've gotten in a bad situation with a family member. Let's kind of use that because that's like a simple situation. And all you hear from, you try to talk some sense to them. It's like, you know what? I know the both of you, they didn't really mean this. They love you. They care about you. And you say, yeah, but they did this, they did that. Yay, they did this. We do this in business all the time, especially at Crossline. So if we're working Crossline, sometimes we can do this within our Crossline. Sometimes we do it within our own teams. And we justify how badly we feel. So do we ever say, you know what, this never works for me? I don't feel like I'm talking to those people right now. So I'm going to skip over some of this because I don't feel like you guys are like everything I ever touch fails. But what I will say is you may have people in your teams who feel like this. And this is your opportunity to take the learning that you're learning from me today and say, okay, let's talk about this. Why do you feel that way? How did you get there? Why do you always feel like this person is like this? Because maybe they've gone up the ladder of inference a little bit incorrectly. And I will definitely say that even though most of us in this industry are positive thinkers and we have a positive mindset, you are always open to negative or limiting beliefs. They sneak in. Probably not all the time, but they can sneak in, and they can, if you allow them to take any kind of hold, they can actually derail you from your journey. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, for sure.
So can I change? Absolutely. What do we do about it? So what do you think we can do about it? Tell me.
Well, you can just put it up there, create new habits.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's about changing behaviors, right? So developing positivity is literally making a habit or changing a habit. So what's one of the things that we could make a habit so that we are not going down that path more often than we have to?
Whatever it was from, what's his face? And it's reading 5 pages of a good book every day. Like real stuff.
Yeah.
Just being really, really self-aware, like being able to recognize when you go down that rabbit hole and put the stop on it before you go any further.
Right? So how do we know we've gone down it? What's a good indicator to know that we might have gone down a rabbit hole?
You start getting barky.
So here's a good example. I'm probably 8 months pregnant. I'm grocery shopping with my husband, and this is on my 4th child. My 4th child was, I'm just going to say it now, it's my excuse, but she was difficult on my emotions. I was 40 years old, having a baby with 3 kids at home with a full-time career traveling. Like I was like, this was my excuse to just, But generally, I'm in a really good mood. And I go into the grocery store and we go to start packing up our groceries. We're at Superstore, so we have to bag our own groceries. And my husband starts to try to help. And I look at him and what are you doing? Why would you put the bread in with that? And I literally I went completely down a rabbit hole so bad that it's funny, but completely embarrassing. Why would you do that? You know what? That's going to squat that. You always do this. Why do you always do this? You don't care. You don't care how I feel. And I completely went there. I mean, anyone watching could have put me on YouTube. It would have it was hilarious, I'm sure. And I'm walking out of the grocery store with all our groceries. My husband's completely quiet. And believe you me, if you meet my husband, he's not quiet. If you think I'm energetic and talkative, he is the life of the party. I am just a shadow.
A wise man.
So he walks out, he's completely quiet, and we sit down, and all of a sudden I'm completely embarrassed. First of all, for the poor lady who was at the cash. And I completely fall apart and I start to cry and I'm like, I'm such an idiot. What possessed me besides hormones to assume that you were doing, and I turned around and I looked at him, I said, I'm so sorry. And I'm bawling. And he starts to laugh. He's like, Shannon, it's okay. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life. But we can go down there and we have to instead. I could have gone home that night angry at him. I could have gone to bed angry at him. I could have stayed in that rabbit hole forever. And it really could have affected our relationship. I mean, I'm grateful for him as well because he really made light of a situation where obviously my hormones took had the best of me, but it was also my belief system. I made it a belief. I took what he was doing, which was trying to help me, and made it about him trying to sabotage how I felt and not caring about me. I took it that far. I mean, that's an extreme case, but now I really try hard to, if he's packing my groceries, and I do like my groceries packed a certain way, there's no doubt about it.
Never squish the bread.
It really bothers me, my poor bread. So I pull the bread aside and then I say, honey, thanks for your help. I know that this is not business related, but it's a perfect example of how we can go, let's take the bread out because that's really what I care about. And let's assume that he's doing something good for me. Mm-hmm. What are some things that you guys think you could do in your businesses that would help you make better habits on going down this path? Maybe it's prospecting. Maybe it's, maybe it's when someone says no. What happens to you when someone says no?
Oh gosh. It never feels good, but we have to detach ourselves of the outcome. I always say that let's pretend that we're the waitress offering everybody coffee. If somebody says no, don't stop offering the other people coffee. Maybe the other people want coffee. Don't assume that nobody wants coffee anymore.
Yeah, excellent.
So I always try to get myself to that point that, okay, I just offered her coffee and she said no. Okay, that's fine. Maybe the next one does want coffee.
Yeah. It's such a great, simple example, Pillay. Just because one person doesn't want coffee doesn't mean the rest of the room, and probably more than half the room, wants coffee. Yeah. It's been my observation, so definitely make it a habit. And then some of the other things that we need to do is understand our trigger points. And that's why I gave the example of the bread. So I know that when I come home from grocery shopping and my bread is squat, it's a trigger point for me. It makes me upset. Mm-hmm. So now I've started just removing the bread, putting it in my own little bag, and letting everyone else help. So it's understanding and becoming aware, understand what your triggers are. And what I'd like you to do over the next, I know we're going into the holidays, but the fact is what better time to make some great changes and observe your own behaviors. Listen, this time of the year, it's one of the most stressful times of the year, right? It's Christmas, we've got responsibilities, we've got lots of things to do. There's a lot of people counting on us. We're meant to be happy and cheerful and great, but we're running into people who are also stressed at lineups at stores. Nobody is feeling great about, trying to prospect at this time of year. And, it just builds up and builds up and builds up. But it's a perfect time to observe your own behaviors and then figure out whether you're criticizing or complaining. Like I said, most of us think that we're positive thinkers. So now you have to really be real with yourself. Am I criticizing? Am I complaining? And maybe I don't on the outside, but maybe I'm super critical on the inside. How many of us have a side conversation inside our head? That idiot, she did it again, or I knew that they didn't want, I knew what I was doing wasn't great. It's this negative self-talk. It can be anything. It can be when it comes to prospecting and self-sabotage, it can be assuming the worst about somebody else. There's so many things that we can be doing inside our heads. And then stop using the words can't or won't.
Yeah.
And then start thinking about how many times you compliment yourself and others, especially around this. If it bothers you that someone's packing your groceries, why don't you just say thank you and assume positive intent? See what happens. Less and less and less will I care about the bread, because let's face it, a $2 pack of bread can be replaced at any time. I mean, in all honesty, why am I getting all huffy about something?
You could be paying $4.
Okay, so 4. All right. And once you're aware of your behaviors, you have to identify the cues or triggers by asking yourself some of these questions. Where am I when this happened? What time is it? What's my emotional state? Who else is around? And what action preceded this behavior? Because then you can change some of those triggers and negative thoughts, behaviors. Make sense?
Yeah.
Reframe your thoughts. Why is it a good thing? Instead of always assuming it's a bad thing, why is this a good thing? Well, it's a good thing because I don't have to carry my groceries out. My husband's helping me carry the groceries out. What's funny about the situation? I mean, to be honest, when my husband started laughing, thinking about me getting all worked up about packing the groceries, it was absolutely ridiculous. And then I started to think about all the things that I appreciated about him. And we can do this in any situation. And how does it help me? It helps me become a better person, become more self-aware. Realize that, even though I do believe that I'm positive, there are times everybody can go down this hole.
Oh, yeah.
And then what have I learned from the experience? And every time you ask a different question, it'll generate a different, more desirable answer, guaranteed. All right. Is there proof? We're not going to go into this, but there definitely is proof. Barbara Fredrickson, she's done some really great work on positive psychology, and her work is probably some of the most referenced and cited in the field of understanding the power of positivity. Here's some points. Positivity broadens your mind. It makes you more open to thoughts, feelings, and choices. It empowers you to build bridges to exciting new opportunities. And the benefits are, especially in our Monet business, it helps us become more creative and see opportunities. It changes the way we perceive new ideas. It allows us greater energy and focus. And you know what? It actually drives us to take action. And positivity is attractive. Listen, we all know this. The more we smile, the more people want to be around us. There's no doubt about this. And in this business, sociability is crucial for building your network. And it pushes you. When you're positive, you're much more likely to get outside of your comfort zone. True. When you're negative, what happens? We make excuses. We already talked about it. We make excuses. We assume. We assume that nobody wants coffee. All right, so nobody wants coffee. Instead of going, you know what? There's 50 other people in this room. There's probably 4 of them who still want coffee. So it actually pushes you.
Yeah.
Every training, you'll see it every time I do this. I always remind each of you guys that you're designed for greatness and a purpose. But actually finding your path to positivity will actually lead you to that life of gratitude. And when you're living in a life of gratitude, you live in passion. And passion, as we all know, creates energy and movement. So that was my thoughts on having a positive mindset. I hope that you found it helpful.
Wow, that was amazing. What did everybody think? Holy cow. I have so many notes in my book. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Shannon, so much. I actually have a question for you because this keeps coming up over and over now that our team needs, I don't even know, 3,300 people in Team Freedom Factory, and there's a lot of little smaller sub teams within our company or within our team. And what I keep coming across, and it is kind of a negative mindset issue, and I often kind of I'm personally stumbling, and I totally admit it, of how to deal with it. There's some of the newer, I guess, emerging leaders, when I reach out to them, ask, hey, how's your monthly goal coming? How is that MMB coming? These big bonuses on the table. And they kind of say that, oh, nobody on my team is working. I'm not going to make it. And it's like trying to turn it around so that they will get to that bonus. And sometimes I find it kind of challenging. I'm just being totally vulnerable here as a leader, because it's one of those things that pops up.
It's a great question, and I think that every leader out there is facing this same thing. I've heard 1,000 times, my they're just not working. And so I think you need to turn it around to them to say, well, what needs to happen to make them work? So turn it around to them, because there's actions. Listen, people work. What did we just say? We get movement when people are passionate. So create some passion. Like, get on a call with them, start connecting. I'm not saying do the work for them. That is not the answer. I'm telling you, it's not the answer. But there's tons of different things that they can be doing to create energy and excitement. Maybe it's reminding them of the promotions that are happening that month. Like, how many have you done? How many people have you called? Have you even, like, send a text and say, listen, how's it going? I'm working on, getting this much out of the promotion. Where are you at? Where are you sitting? And where are your people at? See, the thing is that's such a blanket statement when someone says, well, they're not working. Well, okay, so what do we do to make them, like, to help them on that journey? It is definitely it's definitely a negative mindset. It's definitely an opportunity for you to do a little bit of coaching and mentoring. Mm-hmm. I'm taking 1 second. Our nanny is here and she's leaving for Christmas, so I have to go give her a hug, okay? So just give me 2 seconds, okay?
Just talk amongst ourselves.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Did you
guys, does anyone have any like quick takeaways? Michelle, do you have any takeaways?
Well, I always thought of myself as a super positive person, but then when it comes to the business, as Shannon was talking, it turns out that I have a lot of, like, negative.
Have a wonderful Christmas.
Like, stuff going around in there, and I didn't even know.
Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, epiphanies everywhere, right?
Yeah.
That was fun. Whenever we get these kind of calls, like, I really appreciate Shannon, you taking the time. But then in terms of people that don't have the time to say, really, there's a lot of people that make excuses, and they're valid excuses too. I'm a spare timer. I'm a part-timer. I don't have time to watch these videos, Shannon. What are you doing to me? You're stressing me out. So I like to concise what, like, my takeaways from this call is to kind of sum it up. So, like, the one thing was to create better habits. So, like, across the board in other company that I was in was, like, read 5 pages of a good book. When you have the top leaders doing personal development, it's kind of a huge clue. 80% of their time spent on personal development. So 5 pages of a good book is that kind of what I always kind of go with. And then I like how you said assume positive intent. That's a good habit. Just you don't need to question, like, why people are doing it. Just assume positive intent from everybody. And then Eric Worre talks about there's no good or bad experiences, only learning experiences. So, like, whatever experience it is, like, take a minute and just kind of think about what the heck can I learn from this. And then I love how you said, because when you have gratitude, then it creates the passion, which most of the people that generally come to these calls have it, that then when you can really reflect on it. Because, I mean, my takeaway from this call was, because I work with my husband now, woohoo, woot, woot. So the thing is, I get barky with him. When he's doing so many, like, he's an awesome husband, okay? Are you listening, darling? He's on the call. But this is the thing, like, when he's doing things for the thing, because there's so much stress and pressure, I'll get barky with him. So it's kind of neat. Like there's a lot of bread situations, Shannon, that I'm sure you can imagine. So it's kind of cool. Like I really appreciate you saving our marriage. No, I'm kidding. No, you're not saving marriage, but I definitely connect with what you taught today. So that was really awesome. So,
I am sorry that I went over. I went like 20 minutes over what I had meant to.
but
But we had good discussions, so I just felt comfortable to keep going.
Absolutely, anytime. Thank you, Shannon, so much. I know that your life is so crazy busy, and now that you're actually on a vacation, go and enjoy and go get your Christmas shopping done.
Yeah.
So much for your time. Anybody who is on the line from Team Freedom Factory, this call is going to be, I will post it in our team group, and please tag your team members and actually reach out to them personally to remind them to watch this call, because this was amazing. Like my mind is blown. I can't wait to dig back into my notes and see what just happened.
I really like how you said that too, Shannon. Like, just do quick check-ins with everybody. Like, where are you at and where are your people at? That's another huge habit to get into. I really am going to use that for sure.
Exactly. So thank you everybody for taking time out of your busy lives. Let's rock this month. Let's put what Shannon just taught us into actual good use, and let's implement, and we'll see you again next time. I'm gonna stop recording this right now.